Okay, so your second assignment is on Blackboard. It's in 2 parts. This is the biggest chunk of your mark. It's 30%.
Wow.
You've got 3 weeks to do it. Okay. You have to do part 1 for next week. Part 1 doesn't involve any coding. Part 1 is just planning. Okay. So what you have to give me by next Tuesday night are 2 documents uploaded to Blackboard. Give me a site map of what you're going to build. Here are all the pages and how they fit together. And give me an ERD in JPEG or PDF format of what your database looks like. Okay. You can either create a new database in Azure, or you can just add new tables to your existing database. Doesn't matter. Okay. You don't have to create an entirely separate database if you don't want to. And then on Tuesday the 28th, you have to give me the link to your full code repository and your link to the solution running on Azure. Okay. So you don't have to upload anything, just give me the 2 links. For this project, and only for this project, you have the option to do this with a partner. Okay, so if you want to work with somebody else, that's fine, 2 people max. I got the question on the Monday class, can you work with somebody in the Monday class? Yes, you could. Jacob, I think this probably means you, because Mike was asking, I'm assuming. The only catch is, if you want to have a partner in the Monday class, things are due when the Monday class's stuff is due, which means the Sunday night, so you have 2 less days.
So how are you discriminating between which class here? So like if Monday class is taking over our due date, basically?
No, if you work with them, if you choose to have a partner in the Monday class, your submission is due by the Sunday. Okay, otherwise your partner in Monday has 48 more hours than everybody else in their section, which isn't fair.
That's a very valid point.
Okay. I expect to get unique submissions because for this project, what you are building is something useful and cool. So I should not get 2 projects that are the same from any person or pair. Okay. There's no code sharing at all between groups, and except with you and your partner. If you submit any part of this that's the same as somebody else's, it will be 0. Okay. What I'll ask, if you work with a partner, I want both of you to submit the same. You can submit the same files. You don't have to both post them on Git. Just each make a submission, because then Blackboard gives me the marking rubric where I can give you each a mark. You'll get the same mark as your partner. So Blake, if you and Jeff work together, just each post the same set of links and the same diagrams. It just makes it easier for me to mark it. Okay. So what you can build, and make sure that both your names are included, okay, obviously, so I know. So build something that, well, basically would fall into one of 3 categories. Build an application you might use for your own personal use. Build an application you might sell, either to a client or just something you want to build and put out there in the market to try and sell. Or really anything that you'll be happy to put in your portfolio when you guys are job hunting, okay? I think by now you've all been here 2 years, you're all very capable, or you wouldn't still be here. So my standards for this will be pretty high. I'm expecting to see some really good applications. Then you'll have my everlasting disappointment.
That's lifelong, then.
It's lifelong. We call you when you're 80. You suck.
So here are some of the things students have built in the past. Okay, online time tracker, budget manager. Last year, trying to think what else people built. I had a couple students who like to cook built like a recipe database. I had somebody who built a mileage tracker, so every time they filled up his car, he would track how much he paid for gas and his mileage, and it had a whole bunch of reporting baked into it. You can build anything you want. Okay, so build something either you think that's interesting to you or that you could take out and potentially resell. No, I just need a thank you.
What?
Just a thank you will suffice. Okay, so here's the high level. Basically, you're building a new application. You can't use the in-class Don't give me the Contoso University with additional functionality. Build a new application from scratch, okay? You'll have to have inputs, full create, read, update, and delete using the entity framework. You'll have to implement security and error handling. We'll do those things over the next couple of weeks. Okay. So parts 1 and 2 next week, sitemap and database schema. Okay, so figure out what you're building, plan it out, document it, and submit it to me, and I'll let you know whether I think it's going to work. Okay. Now, a couple of you may already, I know at least a couple people in the Monday class are already using .NET for building applications for clients. If you're already working on something outside of class, can you submit it for the project? Yes. Yes, you can, so long as it meets the requirements. Okay? Now, there's one thing you need to be careful of, and that is scope. So for example, one of the students in the Monday class is doing another application. He asked if he could submit it, and I said yes. The problem is that application's really large. So my suggestion, if you're going to build something and the scope of it's too big, is think about building it in phases. Phase 1 is meet all the requirements of the assignment. And then phase 2 is add additional functionality that you may not have time to build in 3 weeks, or that are additional to the scope of the assignment. So your C# code should have comments. Your application needs, I would say at minimum 4 pages. Okay. So use the server controls for form inputs or displaying data. You'll need proper validation. So data type checking, formatting, length of strings, etc. All of those things should be checked. I will try my best to crash your forms. You do need a master page that includes a navigation bar and some basic CSS. You can write your own, you can use Bootstrap, you can use Foundation, you can do whatever you want. There has to be something there for the CSS. There also has to be create, read, update, and delete functionality. Okay. Now you may have 5 tables in your application. Doesn't mean you necessarily need to be able to update and delete from all of them. Certainly we probably need to be able to at least read from all 5 tables, but there needs to at least be create, update, and delete functionality somewhere in the application.
Well, I got a call from real estate, a couple people, and they wanted me to build a new site in ASP.
Yep.
It was Wolseley.
Well, you know what? You could try. You're going to have a tough act to follow, is all I'm saying. The other requirement of the application is basically the entire application needs to be private. So there can be a public home page, like a splash page, kind of like what we've done with the in-class application. And there needs to be register and login links. Those should be the only public pages. Home, register, and login. Everything else should be behind the login screen. So we'll look next week at how to use the ASP.NET Identity Package for securing our applications, and you'll need to implement that. So all your create, read, update, and delete has to use Entity Framework. And I'll have to put on here that you'll have to implement exception handling, okay? And there's also a .NET package for that, which we'll look at using. So you'll need to handle 404 errors, you'll need to implement try-catch blocks, you'll need a generic error page to show users if anything goes wrong. Okay. So the first 4 marks are due by Tuesday night. Figure out what you're building and plan it out. Then you have 2 weeks for the create, read, update, and delete, validation, security, error handling, master page, CSS, commenting, up to 2 bonus marks for additional functionality that you add with .NET. Okay. The bonus marks have to be for ASP.NET functionality. It's not for implementing jQuery or writing your own fancy CSS file or doing other things.
What was like some interoperability with PHP or something?
Well, I'm not really evaluating. I think I've already I'm not evaluating your PHP skills.
With legacy PHP site?
Okay, questions? No questions, so everything's absolutely 100% abundantly crystal clear, and you could explain to someone who didn't come to class exactly what they have to do? Perfect. Ben, question?
Well, I was gonna say, you might not be able to explain it, but they're not here, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, but does everybody understand what it is you have to do? Okay. So maximum one partner. Okay, so the assignment is due in week 12. This is week 9. So hopefully that also gives you guys a little breathing room. If you have a lot of things due the last couple weeks, this assignment will be done and off your plate. In the Monday class? If they're in Tom's section, I would recommend against it because we're a few weeks ahead of them, and I don't know if Tom is giving this exact same assignment. So no, his assignment may be slightly different, and the due date might be different. So. Only for students with beards, black t-shirts, and glasses. I'm much harder on them than Tom. So if you want to work with somebody, it has to be somebody that's in the Monday section, but not in Tom's section, because I'm not sure that this assignment will align exactly with Tom's plan. We're a little bit ahead of their class. Okay. And as I said, if you work with somebody in the Monday class, their two due dates are 2 days before yours. So you have 2 less days. Okay, your submissions are due Tuesday night. Theirs will be due on the Sunday night. So if you want a partner, either pick somebody in the Monday class or pick somebody in this class.
So we can partner up with someone? Do we have to?
Nope. Optional. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Sure, we'll have some.
Okay. My suggestion is start sooner rather than later. So if you have questions or you run into problems, you've got more time to either email me for help or come to office hours. We're getting to the part in the semester where people actually start showing up for office hours. That doesn't happen until I give out the big assignments. Okay.
What are we going to be working off of? What was the last? I can't remember. Was it lesson 6?
Yeah. So what we'll do, if you have your lesson 6 solution, you can open it up or export it as a template and create a new project from it. If you like, that's what I'm going to do. If you don't have yours, you can get mine off of GitHub. So what I'm going to do is open up my lesson 6 solution. I'm going to export it as a template. And then I'm going to make a new lesson 9 solution. If you have it off Git, extract it. And open it, okay. Just click File and Export as Template.
I have to put in my database strings and stuff.
Yeah, you will, but it doesn't matter whether you do that before or after you create you can do it here or you can do it when you create the new project, doesn't matter. So I've got my lesson 6 solution open. I'm just going to export it. So once I've exported, I'm going to make a new solution. So I'll make a new project. And and I'll pick Visual C#. I won't pick Web. And I'll grab my Lesson 6 Wednesday.
Did you save this somewhere?
It's on GitHub.
It's on GitHub. So I'm going to call this Lesson 9 because it is week 9 of the course. So we don't have a Lesson 7 and Lesson 8 solution. We just, because week 7 was the midterm, week 8 was Canada Day, so this is week 9 of the course. So I'm just going to call mine Lesson 9. So once you have your solution, you will need to put your own if you used my code, you'll need to change the default connection in web.config. It's on line 16. So I'm just going to launch my Lesson 9 solution. You have to put in your credentials in web.config. So if you have my solution from GitHub, in the connection string where it says default connection, if you scroll over, you're going to start to see the host. So that's my server, and then it will have my database name, username, password. So you're going to need to replace, whoops, sorry. You're going to need to replace on line 16 the credentials here with yours.
Whoever installed Visual Studio should have, before they made the image for this computer, should have enabled mine. Enable everything.
That's what they did.
Agreed.
What were they thinking?
Yeah, that's true.
Easy here.
So once you have your solution set up, launch it. You can start without debugging to get it running in the browser. And now we've got a working copy of where we left off. So we did students in class, and the departments you guys did from your lab. So you could even work off of your lab 3. Sorry, your lab 2, because you have the departments page in there. I didn't put them in mine. I'll put them back in today when I put them on Git. We don't need the departments pages for today, so no big deal. They're not there. So what we want, if you click on courses, this is what you'll get. Looks lovely.
Takes me 20 minutes to change whatever my password is.
So what your courses page is going to be, soon enough, is going to look like this. So here's what I want you to do for step 1. The first thing I want you to do on the course is open up the courses.aspx page, which is blank. There's really nothing here, because this is how we left it in week 6. So the first thing I want you to do is put on a grid view and populate the grid view. You can leave out the department for now. And also you can leave out the paging and sorting. Just build a course view, a grid view that shows all of the courses, that shows the course ID, title, and credits, as well as edit and delete. Leave out the department for now. I'm going to have to walk you through how to do that. So build this grid with course ID, title, credits, edit, and delete. We'll leave this out for the moment. Yeah, we do have the courses page, but it's blank. So put a grid view on there. and write the code that when the courses page loads, instead of this, we get a grid view populating. You've already done it, right? We did it in class with the students page together, and then you did it for the departments page in lab 2. Well, you can always, Ben, the easy way to do that, click on expand the models, open the EDMX file, and you can see it.
I always think that
So we don't have to do the department.
You don't have to add the department name, and you don't have to add the paging or sorting. Just a grid view like we've already done.
ID. Oh, I didn't think I see.
Yeah, what are we supposed to add? Are we gonna have an add or delete course? Link, Rick?
Hang on. We should have a link to add a course, yep. So basically, you're building this, you're building a simplified version of this. Leave out the department column for now, and leave out the paging, as well as the column sorting. We'll do all of that together. I'll have to walk you through all that. So just build a grid that when the page loads, it shows all the courses with the ID, the title, the credits, and the edit and delete and add links.
And then
Okay.
should that be functional? Edit and delete? Possibly.
That'd be good.
Well, the edit one's not very easy.
Get right in.
I don't like how it's in my password. Yeah, no more eating.
Canceled, yeah.
No, it wasn't. Good shot.
Oh my God, just canceled your stuff. Canceled.
We've got routine.
Look at that.
I don't know if we need
So if you can't remember what the columns are called, if you just open up your models and open your EDMX, you can actually see what the database looks like from within Visual Studio. Right? So here's the course table, course ID, title, credits.
Rich, apparently you can't convert COMP2007 entities to a my disposable.
What are you trying to do?
I can't get this in. It basically, my using statement won't work. All of a sudden.
So here's how the final thing should look.
I'm missing an assembly of numbers.
Got a weird error. I don't know.
So when you click add or edit, you should get a 404 because we don't have a course.aspx. We'll build that, but that's fine. So the edit link should take me off to course and pass in the course ID.
Did your gridview yet? Make sure that's
So here's what you need. Here's all the HTML you need on the ASPX file. We need a grid view. We need an add link. I've created the row deleting event and set the key field as course ID because we'll need that when we do a delete. And then we've got 3 bound columns, a hyperlink column, and a command column. James, if you're going to pass vodka around in class, I suggest use more attractive cups.
I mean, you could try it. It's pretty good coffee.
You want a shot there, Rich?
Sure.
Good caramel in it. It's really good.
A single garbage.
No, I was going to. I didn't.
So there's the HTML that we need. Does anybody still need to see this?
This is our courses.aspx?
Yep, that's the ASPX that populates the grid and gives us edit, delete links, and an add link.
I need a little peek at that just to make sure I got it.
Yep, so in the C#, to populate it, I've just written a simple get courses method that uses Entity Framework to select all the courses, bind it to the grid. We're calling that method if postback is false. We also need to reference our models folder at the top. In order to use Entity Framework, we need that reference on line 8.
I figured it out, but.
I haven't put the delete code in it yet. Won't take long to do. So we'll just grab the course ID. Same code we've used on the previous grids. So we'll get the key called course ID. And convert it to an integer.
So in your ID for grid say
We have get courses and our no deleting method. Is that it? All right.
I'm writing the code to do the delete. So our delete code is the same as what we did on students and departments. We'll get the course ID.
Only one sort of gang is still a big fellow. The other is a huge fucking. No, I wasn't. It wasn't with the game.
So we'll call remove, save changes, and get courses to repopulate the grid. So I haven't done anything different here. This is the same code we've used in our student grid, same code you used in your lab to delete the departments. Get the ID.
Rich,
Yep,
question.
sure.
To avoid confusion, can we, instead of naming it course, can we name it add course? Because I find with students and students, or student and students, I'm always getting confused and like looking.
Yeah, you could name it. That's this is the convention I'm in the habit of. I've been building my applications this way forever. By all means, you don't have to use the names if you find you've got a more descriptive name. And the reason I name it course is because I'm using that same page for both adding and editing.
Okay.
Right? It's the same page. So if I showed you in the back end of a real application, I mean, by no means do you have to follow my naming conventions.
Okay, true.
Right? So in here, you know, I've got listings, which is my grid with, and then if I click add or edit, I get listing singular, same here.
Okay, that's fine.
News. Well, in this case, I have different names. So whatever naming convention makes sense for you, by all means, go ahead and use. You don't have to name your pages the way I name mine. So now we've got our grid with add, edit, delete. So our next challenge is going to be, how do we get the department to show up? Because this column,
Oh, it's gonna be like a subquery or like a join or something.
right? So, well, let's look. Entity framework. Sorry, Ben, what were you suggesting?
Can you just like reference it by the ID from the table? Like it gives you department ID from the table.
We could reference it. Actually, the way Entity Framework does this is really neat. Even simpler. We don't need a join, and we don't even need to use a key. Because notice our course has what Entity Framework calls a navigation property.
Does it for us?
We'll do it for us. Okay, so let's go back to our HTML. So after credits, let's add another bound field.
Way too easy.
What does the data field need to be if we look at our model? What column from the database should be displayed in that column of the grid?
Department.
No name.
Name.
Right, we want the column from the department table called name. So our data field will be name.
No course.department.name, right?
We don't have to, we can just say name.
Really?
And under the header text, though, we'll put in the heading as department.
Okay.
Okay.
Not name?
Nope.
This is just what shows in the header. This is the name of the column.
Right. What if it was ambiguous?
Then you would need to prefix it, but in this case, we don't need to. Well, which do we want? What do we want to show the user? Do we want to show them a department number, or do we want to show them? Here's our database. Which column would be descriptive for the user? Right? We want to show them the name of the department because the ID isn't going to mean anything.
So would it be department.name if I want to prefix it? Yeah.
Well, hang on, Sam. Let's look at what we have to do with the query. So we're going to have to modify this query. Okay. Right now, all we're selecting is the course column. So here's how we can select both the columns from the course as well as the department name. If after our select command here, I type in the word new and put in a set of curly braces, now we can actually specify all the individual columns. This is also helpful. Let's say our table has 100 columns, but we only want 3 of them. It's a huge waste of resources to select everything. We only want to specify what columns we want. We want C, which represents our course ID, C.title, C.credits. Those will give us the 3 columns we already have. How do you suppose we get the department name?
Would it be c.department.name?
It would be. So because of that navigation property, when we click C.department, so Sam, this is where if you wanted to, you could give it an alias. Right? If you had 2 columns called name, you'd have to alias each one. You could alias each one here in the link query. And then you'd use the alias name in your data field.
Okay. I see very well.
So this is, and we can take out that final C that we had originally. So now we're able to select from 2 tables. We don't have to write a join.
Engineering with 2 Ds.
So let's try this and see whether we get the name. So this here has got to match exactly. Each one of these exactly matches one of the data field properties in the grid.
So I use the prefix in there and it works.
You use department.name?
Yeah. I think so. I see the departments.
So let's build that. We'll try it out and see if our department name shows up now.
I renamed it this one.
Yep.
I probably renamed the department.
Do you have more courses than we do?
Yes, I added, I think I gave you of the first 6.
Rick Freeman's department.
I wanted to add a few more. So I've got 10 and you only have 6. Once we build the course page, it might be a good idea for you to add a few extras because it'll make the paging easier when we've got a few more records. Okay, so showing this related data with Entity Framework is super easy, right? We want to run a query that's multi-tables. So long as we've set up our keys and relationships in our database and in our model, Entity Framework automatically will just let us pull different fields in, which is great. So Sam, you did it. You're saying you did it this, so I'm going to try the way you did it. You put in the department.name here,
Yeah.
and it still worked.
Yeah. Yeah, you compile it though.
I shouldn't need to compile it. Doesn't contain a property with the name department.
That's weird, because it worked fine for me. Yeah, your courses that
I'm going to try an alias here for a
Yeah,
minute.
compile it. I'll go my departments. Or
No,
I'll go my courses.
can't use the alias there.
Just here.
So you have this, department.name is your data field,
Yeah.
and you have this.
None of that, no. None of that. None of that.
So you just left it as select C.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had it this way.
So that might be conflicting possibly.
So you just did it the way we did it originally.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I love it when you guys teach me new stuff. So you've got options, right? We can either just reference it automatically. Yep, that's a little simpler even. I didn't know we could do it that way. Great.
I guess it depends.
So either way, it'll work. Department singular, because it's the name of the model, and all of the models are singular. So this is helpful because perhaps our course column, they could have called it name instead, then we'd be able to differentiate between the course name and the department name. If we had two columns in related tables that had the same column name. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about how we did this?
Can I see yours again?
Sure, so I'll put it back the way I had it. Okay, so this was, we'll call this the SAM method. So Sam's method was just put in the prefix here, that worked. The way I did it
So you made an alias where you selected it.
was I specified exactly
Yeah.
what I wanted. So you'll get the same result, either is workable. What does the error say, James? Yeah, read farther down. James, read farther down. It probably tells you exactly what's wrong.
Name department. Yeah, you can use department over.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions about what we've done so far? Brad?
Mine's going
What does it say?
good. Same thing, HTTP, the data field, department ID.
Okay. We don't want the department ID.
Yeah, I don't have it, it's department name.
Well, somewhere in your code, this page, somewhere either in your C# or your SPX, you have the word department ID. So check for it, and it should be course ID. So have a look. If you can't find it, I will come and look, but I bet you can find it. Okay, the next thing we want to do on here, let's enable paging and then sorting. Okay? The paging part is super easy. All we basically need to do is enable a few properties on the grid and write 2 lines of code. So on our grid view, the first property we're going to turn on, you can probably guess what it is from the list. So let's set allow paging to true. And by default, we don't have many records, so we'll make the page sizes pretty small. Let's set the page size to 3. So it will only show 3 courses at a time.
This is a grid view, right? Allow paging.
Yep, so we're going to add those 2 properties to the grid view. Allow paging is true and page size is 3. So add those 2 properties I've got on line 9 to your grid. I'll reload my page. And notice it automatically, just by enabling those properties, it breaks it into pages of 3. Now, we do need a couple lines of code, right? Because it's looking for a page index changing event, which we haven't added. So we're going to write an on page index changing event handler, and we'll create a new event. So we only need a couple lines of C# in that event. We need to set the page number to load and repopulate the grid. So on page index changing, we're going to create a new event, and then we'll need to add 2 lines into this event. So Visual Studio writes the event handler. So we'll set the new page number. Changing, yes. So we're going to set the page index of our grid. That means which page are we displaying, what page number. Gets or sets the index of the currently displayed page, the code prompt tells us. So our page index equals our argument dot new page index. So that'll tell us what number, what link at the bottom the user clicked on. And then let's just call get courses to refresh the grid. So we'll change the page and refresh the grid. That's it. Now we'll try this, we'll make sure it works. We'll talk a bit more about some of the paging options that come with the grid view. So if I try this out, the paging out now, I should be able to go through my data one set of 3 records at a time. So I can go from... So that's pretty simple.
I have to click twice, like twice though.
Now notice Visual Studio automatically generates those page numbers. We have different options. So by default, what it will show is the numbers 1 to 10, like if you've got 1,000,000 records, it won't show you, and you say, I want to see 3 at a time, you won't get 300,000 links. By default, it will show you 1 to 10, and then dot, dot, dot. When you click dot, 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 it will give you pages 10 to 20, etc. You also can change the style. If we go back in here, we can see the different pager styles. So in pager settings, we could also add, if you wanted the style of first, next, previous, and last, you can change this. So if we change the mode, by default we're using numeric, but you can also set it to one of those other options if you prefer.
So I seem to be getting an error, so when I run it and I click the numbers, I have to click it like twice for it to work. Can I see the CS code again?
Yep, and you use page index changing, not changed. Changed is after.
I use changing.
Here's the code.
You'll get courses, is that right?
Yep.
That's okay.
Yes. Yeah, you should have that.
Yeah, get courses, because you then need to reload the data to show the current page.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Now, depending on our application, we might want to just set the page size and have it hard-coded. We hard-coded it in to be 3. Particularly if it's a shopping cart or search page, we'll often want to give users the option to change the page size. So the user can determine how many records at a time they see. Right? So something like, let's go here. That's your favorite option? Okay, so what do we need? Who needs something at the sporting goods store? What should we search for?
Baseball gloves. Baseball gloves.
It's definitely on.
Not baseball.
Hockey glove?
Baseball gloves.
Baseball goal.
There's a compromise. We need a
Okay, so this was a bad example because they don't let me choose how many records. Let's try here.
Maybe there's future shop. Future shop.
No, we'll stick with a baseball glove. I could use a new one of these days. Right? So here's the items per page, right? So they're giving us the option. By default, we get 60.
We're just gonna throw a ball around with this weekend.
But items per page. Okay. So if we're doing search or we're doing a shopping cart, it's a good idea to give the user the ability to change the page size. So we can simply do it. Here's a simple way. This is what I did in the Monday class. I gave the user the option 3, 5, and 10. So we can fill a little drop down. Oh, my session timed out. So let's add this functionality. So rather than, we can default the page size to 3, but we'll give the user the option to change it. So let's add a drop-down list below add course. We'll hard code in a few options in there, and then we'll make it an auto post back and we can reset the page size. So in courses, underneath my add course link, I'll put in an ASP drop-down list. We'll call it DDL page size. Run out equals server. We'll want to set auto post back, so as soon as the user clicks it, our grid is going to reload. And then we'll add the onSelected index changed event. We'll create a new event handler, so whenever the user picks a different option in the list, post back the form and run that event handler.
Oh, that's how you do it.
That's how you get your drop down to trigger server side code. So we'll just put in 3 list items. Oh, and I probably should put this in a div. And we'll put a label in front of it. What do we call it here? Records per page.
So 3, 5, 10.
Yeah, so we'll put in the options 3, 5, and 10.
No.
Sure, let's do that. But we'll still have to supply a number. It doesn't let you put in infinity. So we'll just put in, we'll do that. So 5. Rather than 10, maybe we'll just put in, so James, here's how we'd have to do it. I'm going to put in, something arbitrarily high. Yep, so when the page loads, you could write a query and you could find the third item in the list and dynamically set that value. Yep, if you wanted to, you could do that. So I wouldn't recommend it because if you tried to set it, people may be adding new records all the time, right?
Right.
So technically it would work, but you might lose any new records that were being added. So this will set up our drop down. We'll give the user options 3, 5, and all. So now in our our selected index changed event handler, all we need to do is change the page size to be equal to the selected value of our drop down and call get courses. So 2 lines of code. So if we jump into the C#, set new page size. So our grid has a page size property, and it's equal to our drop-down list selected value converted to an integer. And then call get courses. So this should allow the user to determine how many records they see. So some applications it makes sense to do this, and some it doesn't. So a drop-down is one option. On the shopping cart I just pulled up, they gave you links instead. We could make those ASP hyperlinks and trigger it.
For the all, I get it out of memory exception. You get that too. Yeah.
Let's see. So I'll choose 5.
5 works, yeah.
5 works.
Nice.
I may have made it too high. That number might just be too high.
Let's try 9,000.
Over
9,000.
Was it too big for an int32?
Good question.
Yeah.
Is it too
Let's try 9,000.
Yeah, the number was just too high. I used 999,000. 6 nines. That works.
What's the code for selected index change?
Sweet.
Yes. Okay.
So set the page size
Okay.
equal to our drop-down selected value converted to an integer and call get.
DDL page size, selected value, and then reload.
Yep, and repopulate. So the 2 common scenarios when we use this is if we're showing products is a common one because typically we're going to have a lot of products, or if we're giving somebody search results in a large database, we may want to let them choose how many records at a time they can see. We're certainly going to want paging because we're not going to want to show thousands of records at once. It's just too slow and pages will take too long to load. Typical page sizes, when we have a lot of data, I would say 20 to 50 records is fairly typical, because that generally shows users enough data without making the page so slow. Any questions? Any questions about the paging? So what we'll do, it's about time for us to take a break. So when we come back, we're going to also want to add this functionality, right? Sorting both up and down, and also getting this little sort icon so we can sort by any column. We'll also have to make sure that the paging doesn't break the sorting and vice versa, right? Because the user may be both paging and sorting. So we'll implement that when we come back. We'll need to use a couple session variables to keep track of which way we're sorting, up or down, and which column are we sorting on. So we'll do that when we get back. And then the other thing we're going to do is add this, start adding the child data here. So when we have a student, we can see what courses they're in and also add them into an additional course, again by using the selected index changed on a drop-down.
Oh, it's already better than Banner.
Okay, let's take a 20-minute break. We'll start up again at 12:35.
Should we have added edit work